You're sitting with your child, they're playing completely focused. And for a moment, you just watch. And then the thought comes up, should I be doing more than this? Because everywhere you look, children are starting earlier and earlier than ever. So let me ask you this. When we move children out of play too soon, are we actually helping them learn or interrupting the very process that makes learning possible? Hi friend, I'm the Nurture Navigator, a child development professional and behavior specialist, and this is Little Feet Fit Guidance. This is a space where we slow things down together, where we take a closer look at what's actually happening underneath behavior, underneath learning, and underneath those everyday moments that can feel small but are shaping so much. Because in the early years, what we see on the surface is only part of the story. And one thing I've seen over and over, both with families and in classrooms, is this. When we misunderstand the purpose of these early years, we don't just change what we offer children, we change how their development unfolds. And often, we do that with the very best intentions. Are you ready? Let's go. So let's stay with something simple for a moment. A child is at the sink, washing their hands. They turn the water on too fast, so it splashes. They pause, look at it, and adjust the handle and try again. From the outside, that moment can pass quickly. It can be overlooked. It can look small, routine, even insignificant. But slow it down, because there's a lot happening here. Let's take a look. That pause you see is not random. That is the brain taking in information. They're noticing what just happened. They're comparing it to what they expected. And they're beginning to figure out what to do differently. That second attempt is not just trying again, it's actually problem solving. And when they adjust their hand even slightly, that's coordination, developing between the brain and the body. And this is where it becomes important to really understand what early learning looks like. Because for a young child, learning does not start with thinking, it starts with experience. Children learn through what they can touch, move, and do. So every time they repeat something like this, they're not just passing the time, they're actually building pathways in the brain. This is where Dr. Bruce Perry's work helps us make sense of what we're seeing. He explains that the brain develops from the bottom up. So before higher level thinking can happen, the brain needs these physical, sensory, real life experiences. Those early patterns of movement, repetition, and adjustment are what organize the brain first. So when a child is pouring, adjusting, repeating, trying again, they are strengthening those lower systems. And those systems are what make higher level learning possible later on. This is why repetition matters, not because the child didn't understand it the first time, but because the brain needs what? Repeated experiences to organize itself. And for the parent who's newer to this, here's what I want you to hold on to. Your child is not just playing. They are learning in the way their brain is designed to learn. And for those of you who already understand development, this is what it looks like in real time. This is the foundation being built. Because before a child can understand something abstract, like numbers or reading, they need something concrete. They need to feel it, move it, experience it. That's why we say if it's not in the hand, it can't be in the brain. This is a common phrase in the child development field. So what looks like a small moment is actually the beginning of everything that comes next. And this is usually where another thought comes in, right? Okay, I get it, but is that really enough? Because it doesn't always look like learning. There's no worksheet, no clear outcome. And when you're surrounded by children who are starting earlier and earlier, it can feel like you should be doing more. But here's what's important to understand. In the early years, learning doesn't always look obvious. It looks like repetition, it looks like movement, and it looks like trial and error. And that can feel uncomfortable because it doesn't match what we've been taught learning should look like. But underneath that, something very real is happening. The brain is connecting experience to understanding. So nothing is missing in those moments. Something is actually being built. Naturally, that leads to the next question. So what do I do in those moments? Do I step in or do I let them be? And the answer is not one or the other. It's knowing when. If your child is still engaged, still trying, still adjusting, that's usually a moment to wait, even if it feels slow, even if part of you wants to help. But if they begin to get stuck or frustrated in a way they can't move through, that's your moment to shine. That's your moment to step in, parents. Not to take over, but to support just enough to help them continue. And this is where another layer of understanding becomes important. Because what helps a child move forward is not just what we do, but how we show up while they're doing it. Dr. Gabor Maté speaks about this in a way that shifts how we see learning entirely. Children don't separate learning from relationship. To them, it's the same experience. So when a child is trying something new, their brain is not only asking, "What is this?" It's also asking, "Am I safe doing this? Am I supported here? Is it okay if I don't get it right yet?" And the answers to those questions shape what happens next. Because when a child feels safe and connected, their brain opens up to learning. They stay longer. They try again. They take small risks. But when there is pressure, even unintentionally, the brain shifts. It becomes focused on getting it right instead of understanding. And that's where learning starts to feel heavy. Marshall Rosenberg helps us see how this happens in real moments. He says children are constantly interpreting our tone, our reactions, our presence, not just the words we say, but what those words feel like. Whether they feel guided or judged, supported or corrected too quickly. And over time, those experiences shape how a child approaches learning. And this is why the idea that earlier is better becomes so important to question. Because it doesn't just change what we teach, it changes how a child experiences learning. You can introduce something earlier, but you can't truly rush the systems that support it. So when we say earlier is better, it doesn't quite tell the full story, does it? And in many cases, it can actually work against how children learn best. When you step back and hold all of this together, the development, the experience, the relationship, you begin to see something deeper forming. Ellen G. White wrote that character is shaped quietly through repeated experience, and that's exactly what's happening here. Not in big moments, but in the small everyday ones. The moments where a child is allowed to try, to adjust, to be supported without pressure. Those moments are shaping more than skill. They are shaping belief. Belief about themselves, about learning, about what it means to grow. All of that together. Parents, teachers, we have made it to the challenge of the week. This week, hold on. Challenge of the week. Woo! I hope you did that woo with me. This week I want to invite you into something intentional. In one moment each day, when your child is engaged in something, pause before stepping in. Not forever, just long enough to really see what's happening. Give them an extra 30 seconds, maybe even a full minute. And while you're watching, ask yourself, what is my child building right now? Not what they're producing, not what they're getting right, but what they're practicing. And then, if you step in, let it be to support what's already happening, not to take over, but to meet them where they are. So as you go into this week, you're probably still going to have that moment where your child is playing and that thought creeps back in. Is this enough? And when it does, just pause for a second and look a little closer, because what looks simple on the outside usually isn't. There's thinking happening, there's effort, there's growth that doesn't need to be rushed. And the more you can start to see that, the less you'll feel like you have to push. You'll start to trust it a little more, and that shift is where things really begin to change. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, where I share more of what this looks like in real life. And if you know someone who's been feeling that same pressure, send this to them. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And before you go, I just want to say welcome back, or maybe welcome for the first time. This is a new season of Little Feet Big Guidance and of nurtured parents as a whole. And if you're just finding this space, you don't have to start here. You can go back. There are so many conversations that build into this one, moments that might give language to things you've been feeling for a while. So if something in this episode connected with you, take your time and go through a few more. Let them sit with you, and we'll keep building on this together.